Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Scott Watkins. Know it all about Troy. Went to school there. Covers it or something. I don't know.
Covered it.
Troy. Sorry, Scott. Scott used to work with Panther Talk and now covers Southern Miss. But as a Troy alum, I wanted to get him on to talk about this game coming up this weekend. So first of all, Scott, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. What's it like having to cover a school that's in your own alma mater's division?
It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. It creates a lot of fun situations with the fans where you kind of get to go back and forth a little bit. It's definitely kind of a tightrope that you kind of have to walk. So I don't really put a lot out there publicly. I kind of find the happy medium, the place that everybody can kind of agree on. And for me, that is my hatred for South Alabama. And so I can just put that out there, and everybody's like, yes, we agree.
You're like, I'm starting to lose the crowd.
South
Alabama. And
They suck.
Yeah.
F the Jags, Jag-offs. Yeah, that's cool. I guess it's got to be difficult, but yeah, if you say anything remotely critical of the Golden Eagles, it's like, oh, he's just a Troy homer. That's all he cares about.
No, I don't get that a lot. Thankfully, I try to balance it out, though. I try to be as unbiased as possible. And I've done Sunbelt coverage for so long. So many people have known me, and they know that I'm not that type of person. I'm actually not huge on Troy this year, actually. So that's kind of been my thing too. So nobody's really concerned, I don't think.
Well, that is a great segue into. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say they're a pretty passionate fan base themselves. Like they will. I think this last game they were all over their team about. Sorry guys, we should be in Conference USA. We shouldn't be here. Like they're a crazy fan base, just like us.
Yeah. There's just so many of them. They're passionate, man. It's a program that's been around for a long, long time, and they've seen a lot of different things. So it means a lot to them.
I got a question. Are we talking about
Troy?
Are we talking about Troy or Southern Miss right now?
Southern Miss right now.
Oh, okay.
Southern Miss.
I was like, Troy's fans think that they should be in CUSA. I don't think I've heard that bit.
Southern Miss.
Yeah.
No, so it's a segue into Troy there. They were obviously conference champs last year. Really dominating team, really great, but just have not found that same magic this year. Did they lose a bunch of people? What happened? What's different about this team than last year's squad?
Well, I think it starts with the understanding that last year's squad was weird. Last year's team had just an awful offense. Gunnar Watson's just as average as it can be as a quarterback. Offensive line was the most ineffective in the Sun Belt. I don't know how many times you can go back and you could find a conference champion that was just awful on the offensive line. Troy was that team. They won because they were just unbelievable on defense. You cannot replicate what they did defensively last year. It was just insane. They lost Carlton Marshall in the middle. They lost another linebacker, KJ Robinson. So they lost the beef of that middle right there. They bring back a lot of the secondary, a lot of the defensive line, but they don't have. They also lost the defensive coordinator to Tulane. So it's impossible to replicate what they've done. And because they're not 2-3 steps better on offense, things are just kind of evening out a little bit. And they're not going to be that 12-win team that they were a year ago. They're still contenders in the West for sure, but it's going to be next to impossible to do what they did last year.
Well, what does contenders in the West even really mean this year, right? There's not really a whole lot going on over there right now.
It's it's so wild. In fact, earlier this evening, I did a podcast with some Texas State guys, and that conversation is so funny because we're talking about it over there from a West Division perspective, and we're just kind of peeking over the fence at the East for a moment there, and everything is so different. In the West, you don't really know what's going to happen in a different way that you don't really know what's going to happen in the East because you just don't. In the West, it's because you've got a South Alabama team that you think is supposed to be the best, and then they just laid that dud against Central Michigan. So you're thinking, okay, is it Texas State? And that feels weird to say, so you don't really want to believe it.
Could be.
And then Troy is the incumbent.
That's David's number 2 team. So
yeah. Right.
So, like Troy, you don't know how much better they are or worse they are from last year, and then you have Louisiana and Southern Miss, kind of the wild cards in there. So it's
don't forget Monroe. Come on, man.
And
You never know.
You never know about Monroe.
Yeah, Monroe exists. That's true.
They've got upset alert on App State this week. App State heading into Monroe,
Really?
and a lot of talk about Monroe. I think. Now, to be fair, I think App State's like a 14-point favorite in the game, but there's still some upset talk. Actually, something else I'll talk about on the regular podcast, which hasn't happened yet. But App State's actually 0-6 in their last 6 road games after beating Texas A&M last season. That's crazy.
Yes, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat. Absolutely. So maybe Monroe will make some noise on Saturday. I don't know, but. Yeah. So, guys, you got a question? I got a couple more. I was actually trying to look at the standings, but yeah. Nothing.
Where do you think Troy's at? No, I mean, where do you think Troy's at? Like, obviously, you said earlier they're not a 10-win team, right? But where do you think they're going to emerge the rest of the season with getting into the rest of the Sun Belt games? They're my number one, so
yeah,
I'm wrong so far.
It's tough to say because Gunnar Watson, he's always been my guy at quarterback, but he just has not progressed at all. And there just hasn't been any. He was a turnover machine a year ago, and it hasn't been any better this year. I think they have 10 turnovers. I think Georgia Southern is the only other Sun Belt team with 10 turnovers at this point.
We call them trash down south around here.
Sorry, trash down south. They have 10 turnovers. But no, I don't know if the emerging skill talent around Gunnar Watson is enough to fully offset his play. It's definitely neutralized in spots. You have that wide receiver Chris Lewis, who has made like 4 or 5 highlight reel catches for Troy so far this year. Kamani Vidal is getting 90% of the carries right now, and he is, I think, picking up 6-7 yards a carry. It's insane. I don't know how much that is going to carry Troy, and if one of those players goes down, it's going to be a huge hit for that offense.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the numbers, and it looks like running back Nadal. What is his name? He looks very similar to Carroll. He actually has more yards than Marcus Carroll, but where the big difference is, I think Marcus Carroll has almost double the touchdowns that Nadal has. So he's the Georgia State way this year seems to be give up a lot of yards, but don't give up a lot of points, which is nerve-wracking. But I don't know. The rush defense for Troy looks like it's pretty potent, and with Georgia State being such a run-heavy team, both from the running backs and from Granger, it's that's what I'm nervous about. Is seeing whether we can actually establish a run game against Troy's defense, which you're talking about being so strong last year.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think that Georgia State, at its very, very best, has maybe the funnest offense in the Sun Belt. I got to watch it firsthand last year when they came to Hattiesburg, and it was just a beatdown. And they ran that thing flawlessly. It's a lot of fun to watch when it's perfect. Last year and the year before that, as long as I've known Georgia State under Sean Elliott, it's been this. I talked to Brady about this. It seems like the range between Georgia State's good and like good day and Georgia State's bad day is just massive. Right. You don't know what Georgia State team you're going to get sometimes. And this year, so far, we've gotten 4 good ones. First one might have been a little shaky, but I think they've got a real chance to establish a run against Troy, but it's going to be the best defensive line it has faced up to this point for sure.
Yep. Ryan,
Granger don't care about defensive lines. He just runs away from them. He just scamper off. He'll be fine. So is there a quarterback really named Gunnar?
Yeah, he's got a gosh, he hasn't, his actual name is something else, and it's so.
Oh, it's a nickname?
I think so. I don't know. I just
if his real name was Gunnar, I was like, oh man, we're screwed.
I can't remember if his real name was Gunnar Watson or not, or Gunnar. No. I have to figure it out because his name is so funny to me. Whatever it was.
I always wonder about like when you have these football players, they're just name defines like what they are.
Name. It's his
middle name.
His first name is Milton.
Oh,
yeah.
But it is
Milton doesn't
a legal name, so that's we're screwed.
Yeah,
our secondary is going to get lit up.
We need some Milton from Office Space signs to
we need
get
Milton.
in the stands.
Yeah. Some big red staplers.
Exactly. And then he'll just tell us he's going to burn the whole place down. So
yeah. It's all concrete, buddy. Good luck.
Go for it.
Speaking of Gunnar, like, you talk about like watching him air it out. That's been a problem with Georgia State is the pass defense. That's probably my biggest concern about the game, next to being able to establish the run, is whether or not they're just going to be able to pass on us all day long. It's in his wheelhouse. That's what he's capable of doing, huh?
Yeah, Watson, he's definitely an up and down guy, but what Troy has is a very sneaky wide receiver room. It's actually pretty good. They have a lot of guys that they utilize, and I'll bring up Lewis again. He's averaging 20 yards a catch. Had that Hail Mary at the end of the half against Western Kentucky. The third quarter comes out and makes a spinning one-handed grab. It's going to be a tough night, I think, a big challenge for Georgia State DBs. I've never been a huge fan of Georgia State defensive backs. This is certainly going to be a big test for them. But I think the game plan should really be to get aggressive. And this is a team that has struggled with ball security. Even Kamani Vidal has struggled with ball security, almost lost the Western Kentucky game because of a late fumble. And be aggressive. I think that should be Georgia State's strategy. Keep Chris Lewis within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Don't give Gunnar Watson enough time to allow Lewis to open up downfield. He doesn't have to be open to make the catch. I will reiterate that. I mean, he could be double coverage. He's a 6'4" guy. Anything that's thrown anywhere near him, it seems like it's just going to suck into his hand somehow. That would be my thing. I mean, you've got to get to Watson. Watson is not the greatest playmaker in the world. He is. This is the most in shape he's ever been, I hear. But he's still kind of just a big dude in that pocket. So you've got to get after him.
We will.
That's one thing I've liked about our defense this year, actually, was the pressure that we've been putting on quarterbacks and on offenses, period. I feel like, and it's gotten better and better every week, our defense. So, that first week was definitely everybody's like, our defense is.
We're knocking the rust off, man. We're having to learn how to gel.
I know, but brand new season. It's a new DC. They're figuring out all the new schemes and all the new everything, and I think they are figuring it out, which is, that's what you want.
I feel like we're blitzing more than we have in the past years, for sure.
Yeah, I love it.
We take chances, and we put pressure on the quarterback. They make mistakes. So far, every team has made mistakes in the passing game with the pressure we put on the quarterback. So we'll see.
What do you think about this kind of matchup, Scott? Like, Troy and Georgia State are two of the closest programs in the entire Sun Belt. Maybe
I've been telling Brent Jones for years this should be a rivalry. Like this should be a thing that happens. Like of course, cross division rivalries isn't a thing in the Sun Belt. I think it should be, and I think that this should be Troy's cross division game. I mean, these two teams have played so many good games over the years. There's no reason not to celebrate this contest.
I agree. There's just no reason why these schools should be so close in the same conference and not play. And like you said, we don't have protected rivalries, but they did when it was split. When Troy was in the East, didn't they played South Alabama every year still though, didn't they?
That was a very short, time span, like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But yes, that was the only protected rivalry in the Sun Belt.
Yeah. I would love to see that happen. I've made no bones about not being thrilled about being in the Sun Belt Conference, but if we're going to be in the conference, let's do it the right way. And I think that's playing Troy in every sport. Obviously, we play everything else, but including football every single season. I think it's good for the fans. Quick road games, good for travel budgets.
Absolutely, that's the fastest 3-hour drive I've ever made in my life. I don't know what it is about it.
And the problem is there's not been any kind of no animosity, no flame throwing, no nothing. Like we kind of just play clean games and get in, get out, and like that's it. So it's like the rivalry isn't forming, even though it would be nice.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You definitely kind of miss that edge factor a little bit with the games. I think that might be all that's left. I mean, I've seen some Georgia State games that had some weird endings, and they a lot of them seem to be close. I remember the one in Troy a few years ago. There was an onside kick at the end, and the call seemed to be kind of weird, and Troy fans were furious about that for like a week. So,
and it's not just football either. I mean, when we feel good about our basketball program, we go down to Troy.
5 years in there, yeah.
And
you say they were upset for like a week though. I don't think we thought about it again.
We were good.
Yeah, that was back in the Chip Lindsey days. So Troy fans were just furious every day.
I'm just trying to stoke the flames here. All right.
You're trying to get that rivalry going, right?
That's right.
We should leave it up to the Sun Belt office to schedule the rivalries. So they would put us with probably Texas State, right? Just the furthest you can get away from
David.
would be.
Yeah. Whoa, hey, that was cool. David,
yeah, that was a good lightning.
Tim wants the Sun Belt to decide our
they should.
rivals, our schedule.
They are already. Last year, our rivalry week game was Marshall. Now our rivalry week game is ODU. So they're just trying to figure out what fits.
How far away in the East can you get? Yeah,
I don't like that about the Sun Belt. We don't do the rivalry week thing in this league.
Yeah,
and I really wish that we did.
Yeah, I think there's so many. Like, obviously, I think the most common, at least on the East side, the most common is the Trash Down South and Appy State. Everyone acknowledges that as a big rivalry. And then obviously we would pick Trash as our rival. So you can't have two rivalries. You can't make them play 2 games in one day. Although that'd be
How does that feel, by the way, to pick Georgia Southern as your rival and then they pick somebody else as theirs?
They had it before us. I don't know. You know, like, it was their rival forever.
I'm just trying to stoke it a little bit.
No, I wish we were not in a conference with them to begin with. But if we're going to be, I mean, there's no not denying. You know, we don't have the football history, let alone we can have a rivalry history with any programs to say something. You know, we played a couple of the other programs in basketball forever in the Colonial or whatever, but no one gets fired up on Old Dominion playing a truck line company. You know, who cares? We never really had a history with JMU. I mean, I like Appy myself. Like, that's a game that I like to see as a rivalry, but they keep on beating us.
It was got Coastal, right? I mean, no one can win at home. That's a good rivalry. Yeah. Whoever wins first is the best.
Well, then, and Lafayette's developed as a basketball rivalry.
I think Coastal is developing. I would call that like in the beginning stages of a rivalry for us.
That's because they crap in your bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first step.
You try to be nice, and then they all take poops in your bathroom.
So, you guys got anything else for Scott? We can let him go and we get on with our stuff.
I don't know. What do you think about the East? What's your like top 3?
Top 3? That's impossible. I think there's like
top
5 different teams. 5 different teams that can win the East probably.
All right. Who are those guys?
Georgia State, Marshall, JMU. That's really the best teams.
Georgia State.
I love App State. App State, I think, is back to where they were. I really do think the Mountaineers are back. I didn't think this a few weeks ago, but even after that Wyoming game, I do think that App State is very much a serious football team. Old Dominion, I think, is at the bottom.
Yeah,
I'm trying to squeeze this into the middle. Best in the East, I'm leaning towards Marshall more and more often. They're kind of an afterthought for me a lot of the times because they're new and they're just way up there.
Right.
But they look pretty darn good. I mean, their defense to me reminds me a little bit of what Troy did last year, except they have Rasheen Ali as a running back. And so that seems really dangerous to me, a potent combo. Cam Fancher isn't like the greatest quarterback, but at least he can do both the running and the throwing. And so you do have, options there on offense. So Marshall to me is kind of where I'm leaning as my number 1, and then like 2 through 4, you could really just order those however you want. You guys are gonna hate this, man. I think that the Trash Down South is pretty good this year. I think that what they're doing offensively, if they can just not turn the ball over, all they needed to do was fix that defense, and it looks a lot better. So
they've never been able to not turn the ball over, though. That's sort of a Trash Down South. Like, that's part of their identity is we turn the ball over.
And if they fix that, it's bad news for everyone else.
But it's not just this team. It's like for decades now. That's
yeah. I'm not. That's one of the teams that was a Sharpie marker W on the scorebook when I started the season. That's a win we'll get. No doubt about it. Them, ODU, and Coastal are the 3 that I knew we'd win in conference.
Is that why the videos aren't public anymore, so nobody can trash you for your takes?
No, we get plenty of trash.
You just got to pay for them, man. Come on.
I'm actually getting comments right now for the Patreon stuff. I think right now it is Marshall is probably the front runner. They look the best. They have the best resume so far, which is why a lot of us are actually obviously wanting to win this week against Troy, but then also rooting for Marshall against NC State, then ODU in the following week. So when they come down here, we have 2 undefeated Sunbelt teams, kind of like a little clash at the top. I think it could be a good game, a game that ESPN may pick up as one of the linear channels or something.
I think that you guys have a lot of good games left. I was kind of looking at it really before this last week happened. as far as remaining schedules go, you guys have the toughest. And Georgia State's the toughest schedule left. It's brutal.
Easily. Yeah. We're ready.
I'm worried about it. I was looking at it too and just like, oh man, this is going to be. Hopefully, we continue just getting better every week because we have to.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot, Scott, for your time. We'll get you back in here next time we're playing Southern Miss and something or something like that. And appreciate your time and go Panthers.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thank you guys for having me. Been a while.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, man. Been too long. Thanks a lot,
Good
Scott.
to see you.
See you.